Welcome to Summer in October. I'm Alex, and I'm doing a review of Sinners. I'm going to do a very quick non-spoiler review and then get into the spoiler portion. If I sound a little bit different, this is my first sit-down since getting my Invisalign back on. If you don't like the way I sound, I'm sorry, it's going to be a few months like this, so we're going to have to get with it. And of course, the first video I'm doing is Sinners, which has 2 S's, so spare me. So I went to see Sinners, and I was a little bit nervous because it was getting a lot of hype. I was a little bit cautious because sometimes people really do hype up movies because of the names that are associated with them. And I just, I had to go in with my own non-bias, my own opinion, see what happens. It's worth all the hype it's getting and more. When we get to the spoiler section, there are a couple things that keep it from being like the perfect movie, but if it was like out of 100%, it's 98%. Like it's really, really good. And it's really different and not really what I expected at all. It's a very interesting play on the vampire theme, so I really like that. And I will say, there's a lot of discourse coming out at this time about how there are media outlets undermining its success. That should honestly tell you everything you need to know. If the media needs to dice their words to undermine a movie, it's probably doing really good. So if you're seeing like, oh, it's not actually profiting, it's an amazing movie. I already want to go see it again. I know people who've seen it multiple times. Roderick, looking at you. Go see it, all right? A lot of people are loving this. If you are hesitant, I'm telling you right now, don't even wait. Go to a theater if you can. Like, it's worth it. Now we're going to go into spoilers because I just want to discuss the movie a little bit. So if you have not seen it, go away, come back when you have. So spoiler review. This movie did such a good job at introducing the setting, the time, the characters, and the relationships. They did not have to spell out a single thing twice. Every time they introduced something and the story that it was, I was sold. But not only was I like believing it, I was invested. I cared instantly. I cared about Sammy being the preacher's boy and wanting to play music. I cared about Smoke and Stack and what went on with their father and why they actually came back from Chicago. I cared about their relationships with these women and what happened in the fallout. I cared about Cornbread. Like, I cared about everybody, okay? And this is not a musical, but I will say the way they use music in this movie is more musical than score. So it does lean towards a musical. And if you're not new here, you know that musicals are very hit or miss for me. I need to be in the mood, anything like that. Breaking into song is a hit or miss. But I don't know if it's because it's the blues. Maybe I love the blues. Maybe I didn't know that I love the blues. I don't know what it is. But this movie is so amazing at how they intertwine music into this. The scene where Sammy is finally performing and we get all these generations around him, which generations and cultures, like it is so beautiful and you're just engrossed. And then the fire is burning. If the movie ended right there, I would have been happy. We've built up so much story into that moment. I would have been like, yes, awesome movie. But we knew we had to get into the vampires. But I will say before that, I can't remember her name, but in the green dress, the one that, like Sammy, they did the thing. When she was singing and she was doing like the stomping with the beats, and it was actually complimenting what was happening in the movie, beautiful. Andy's my favorite character. Moving on. When we get introduced to Jack O'Connell, God, I love him. If anybody is rooting for him, it's me. Watch Unbroken, my fave. Anyway, we get introduced to him as Remmick. I think I'm saying that right. The Irish vampire. I do love that vampire design. It's very subtle. The glowing eyes, the teeth, like it's nothing otherworldly, even though when we do see him closer to the conclusion of his story in this movie at least, we get those claws and his face burns and you just see more of what he is. So it's very clear that there are multiple forms. There are things that can grow in the vampire evolution because he's also much more powerful than who he turns. But I do love that he also has this music background that is called upon by their music. They kept saying about dancing with the devil and how the music could break the veil, whatever that word is. But not only can that bring him, Remick the vampire himself is also inspired by music, is also connected to music, also performs. When he sings Rocky Road to Dublin, listen, you guys always ask if I'm Irish. No, I'm from Newfoundland, but we have Irish roots. And when he started singing that, I was like, yes, yes, and I loved it. But what I found really interesting about his character and why I want the backstory, give us a prequel. I don't often want a prequel. This time I really want a prequel. I want to know his story because there was very interesting, and I haven't stated the obvious, there is so much commentary in this movie, and not even commentary, sometimes just like actually living in the setting of what was. But there's obviously a lot of commentary about the Jim Crow era and, segregation and just the unjust treatment of people of color, of Black people. What I really liked about the story of the vampire is when he's in the water with Sammy, really near the end, the conclusion to that interaction, he is speaking about how he feels about religion and about how he was promised this, really great life from Christianity. And so then this brings in commentary about what the Irish went through because the Irish have their own oppression, they have their own story. So it's really interesting that we get those two different, globally different situations that do have similar experiences. Not exact, obviously. I'm not that uneducated or educated on the matter, so I'm definitely not saying they're complete parallels, but obviously there is some similarities there, which I think is a very interesting approach to have. If the vampire was a part of the clan, we would not give a shit about Remmick. I would not want to know his, backstory. I wouldn't care about what song he was singing. So it's very interesting that we have this complex villain that you can also really wonder about, like, what's his story? Because often with vampires, there is a sympathy aspect because they're turned to a vampire. So they're not always evil. Like, what was his story before? So I want to know. I want to know. So let's go through a few things story-wise. I'm kind of going to have to rhyme them off because I didn't take notes in the theater. Usually I do. But when I tell you, I was just living in the moment of that movie. I can't get over it, guys. I'm not going to get over it. I really like when they did the garlic test. It was very reminiscent, and I feel like a nod to The Thing. Maybe it's not, but for me, it just really brought The Thing blood test. I loved it. I actually kind of wish in the garlic test that one of them was a vampire. I think that would have been more iconic. And that is the only issue I really have with this movie, is when we got to the vampire sequence, when we really got into the vampires, we needed a little bit less vampire, a little bit more background characters that could become vampires or victims, because we did not really get enough action. Kind of iconic when she invited everybody in and then she burnt, staking them out. Crazy that she invited them all in, but honestly, I kind of was cheering her on. But by the time the vampires were invited in, we had such a small cast of characters, and because it was revealed that one of them would survive, because we had that intro, and we had some main characters, and we had some foreshadowing, we kind of knew what was going to happen in that, segment of the movie. So I think if we would have kept a few more background characters, so we could have got a little bit more carnage, because when we did get carnage, like when Cornbread was out here attacking, it was like, it wasn't vampire to me. It felt very zombie-like. The way they were feeding, the way they were attacking, the way even the vampiric spread, so how he built his little army, it felt very like a zombie outbreak pace. You know what I mean? When you have like a small zombie movie with a small cast and you're seeing it get bigger and bigger. So I actually really liked that, but we didn't get enough. And I did love seeing Jack O'Connell. He clearly has a little bit more powers. Like, he was flying, like, he was doing the things. Oh, when Sammy. I love that part. I would have just liked a little bit more vampire. But I do think the reason they didn't give us so much vampire is because they needed to put some of that budget into what happens after. I was not expecting there to be a crossover between the clan and the vampires. So when Jack reveals that, not Jack, sorry, when Remick reveals the first couple he went up on, they had the hoods there, and he knew that they were related to the man who sold them the juke, what is it called? You know what I'm talking about, the place, that they were actually planning to come attack them. And speaking of that, we had I don't know what the correct term is for it in this context of this time period, so indigenous, First Nations, Native, Indian, whatever the correct word is, we had them come searching for the vampire. I would really, really like to expand on that in a prequel because they knew what he was. They knew what he was. So we have that crossover with the clan and the vampires. So he's warned. So Smoke is like, I think it's Smoke, right? I get them confused sometimes. Yes, because Smoke is my favorite. Because Stack at the end has his knuckles that say Stack. And also, Haley Steinfeld does a really great job. The spitting scene is crazy. 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 Moving on. I know I'm all over the place in this review, but I'm just really walking you through my thought process as it comes. So Smoke knows that they are coming, that the clan is coming. And listen, if they had to cut some vampire so we could get that, it was worth it for me. I was snapping my fingers in the theater. I was like, you know what? Blast them up. It was needed. It was really great that he defended and they didn't get to have their plan. It's unfortunate that, though, they didn't get to have their plan because people already died to vampires. But I also really like that commentary in there about the villains. You know, we're talking about vampires and like otherworldly creatures, and then we're talking about the white folk that are down the road. Villains everywhere, supernatural or not. And I just like that layer that they put in there. I thought it was so powerful at the end to have Sammy not choose to drop the guitar and to see him years later with the scratch. But when they were like sparing him, it makes me wonder more about the vampire lore. Like, how much do they need to feed? Like, how aggressive are they? Like, how much of their soul do they have? Because I mean, Remmick is very with his Irish roots. So I need more about the vampires. Sometimes we have vampire stories where when they're vampire, they are bloodthirsty. These are clearly not. They're just like immortal beings, kind of more like, I don't want to make the comparison to True Blood and Twilight, but it is kind of giving that. I mean, they're all dressed up, they're just being an immortal couple, choosing and picking what they want to do. It's interesting. Sammy was a phenomenal actor in this. He did so good. Everybody just did such a good job. Like, the acting was really, really great. I'm really afraid I'm missing someone or something important. So if I am, I'm sorry. But it was a really great movie. Ryan did a phenomenal job. This is original, creative, but immersive. So we saw all these different dimensions to the historical setting, but then we had also all these different dimensions of relationships. And I don't know, it was just so immersive. Like, immersive is the strongest compliment I can give it because it's very hard for a horror movie, especially a movie with vampires, to be immersive because it's so out there. But it's just so well done. I love this movie. I need to stop now because I'm just talking to talk. So let me know what you think. And I'm watching Until Dawn Thursday, so a review will be up soon for that one as well. Okay.